Hollywood's depictions of gun violence, corrupt police behavior, and a corrupt legal system. Movies and TV shows have had a strong influence on the MAGA segment of the U.S. population. Let's look at the following points. The role of media in shaping public perceptions and behaviors is profound. While entertainment is often regarded as a reflection of society, it also plays a significant role in reinforcing narratives and shaping ideologies. In the United States, the MAGA movement, characterized by extreme nationalism, distrust in institutions, and militant attitudes, has been influenced by depictions of gun violence, corrupt police, and a corrupt legal system in movies and television. The print and broadcast media, in turn, have played an enabling role by normalizing these portrayals, failing to provide critical context, and at times amplifying extremist narratives. This critique examines how media portrayals contribute to this phenomenon and evaluates their broader sociopolitical impact. Normalization of gun violence and vigilantism. Gun violence has long been a staple of American film and television, often presented in a manner that glorifies armed resistance and vigilantism. Characters such as John Rambo, Dirty Harry, and Jack Bauer operate outside legal frameworks, portraying justice as something to be achieved through individual force rather than institutional means. This consistent messaging has reinforced the belief that guns are necessary tools for personal and national defense. Studies indicate that repeated exposure to violent media content desensitizes viewers and increases aggressive behavior. A meta-analysis published by the American Academy of Pediatrics found that screen violence contributes to real-world aggression, a phenomenon evident in the rise of armed confrontations at political events and militia formations among extremist groups. Media depictions of corrupt police and the erosion of institutional trust. While investigative journalism has historically played a role in exposing police misconduct, entertainment media frequently depicts law enforcement as either irredeemably corrupt or as rogue heroes who must bend the rules to serve justice. Shows like The Shield and Training Day glorify police officers who operate outside the law, reinforcing the idea that corruption is an inherent part of the system. The Knapp Commission Report, 1972, detailed widespread corruption in the NYPD, categorizing officers as meat eaters, actively corrupt, and grass eaters, passively complicit. Rather than spurring accountability, these depictions have fueled narratives that either justify lawlessness or encourage violent resistance against authority. This dichotomy is particularly dangerous when aligned with MAGA extremism, which both idolizes militarized policing and decries federal law enforcement agencies as corrupt deep state actors. The portrayal of a corrupt legal system and the justification of extremist actions. The perception of a corrupt legal system is another pillar in the justification of violent actions. Popular shows, such as Law and Order, while ostensibly supporting law enforcement, often depict prosecutors and judges as politically motivated actors. Meanwhile, films like JFK and The Pelican Brief propagate conspiracy theories that suggest judicial outcomes are manipulated by hidden elites. Academic studies, including Kelsey Craig's 2022 analysis of Supreme Court ethics, point to real issues of political influence in the judiciary. However, in the absence of nuanced reporting, media narratives can fuel radicalization by reinforcing the idea that the legal system is irredeemably biased against certain groups. The violent MAGA segment, believing that courts are rigged against them, has justified actions such as the January 6th insurrection under the pretense of restoring justice, echo chambers, and selective media consumption. The impact of media extends beyond entertainment. Print and broadcast media have also played a role in shaping these beliefs by fostering echo chambers. Conservative-leaning news outlets selectively amplify crime stories that fit into a narrative of institutional corruption while minimizing systemic factors. Meanwhile, social media algorithms prioritize sensational content that reinforces users' pre-existing beliefs. Research from the Pew Research Center shows that audiences on the far right are more likely to consume news from ideologically homogeneous sources, reinforcing distrust in mainstream institutions. This selective consumption allows media-driven paranoia to thrive, deepening radicalization and increasing the likelihood of violent action. Case studies and real-world impacts. Numerous real-world cases illustrate the connection between media influence and violent actions. The 1981 assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan by John Hinckley Jr. was inspired by Taxi Driver, a film that depicted a lone gunman taking matters into his own hands. More recently, the Pizzagate shooting at a Washington, D.C. pizzeria was fueled by online conspiracy theories amplified by fringe media. Operation Greylord, a major investigation into judicial corruption in the 1980s, uncovered systemic bribery among judges in Cook County. Yet instead of inspiring reform, similar narratives have been co-opted by extremist movements to justify attacks on government institutions. The media's role in reinforcing cultural hero archetypes. One of the most significant contributions of print and broadcast media to the radicalization of the MAGA segment is its reinforcement of cultural hero archetypes. Figures such as the lone gunslinger, the rogue cop, and the anti-establishment crusader are deeply embedded in American storytelling. Political figures have capitalized on these archetypes to craft their own images, mirroring media heroes in both rhetoric and action. Donald Trump's appeal to his base has often relied on presenting himself as a warrior against corrupt elites, a narrative reinforced by media portrayals of similar figures in entertainment. Academic studies, such as Stevenson's research on judicial corruption, confirm that perceived bias in legal institutions strengthens populist movements, which in turn weaponize these narratives for political gain. Conclusion: the responsibility of media. The intersection of entertainment, news, and politics has created a volatile media landscape where depictions of violence and corruption are not only consumed as entertainment, but also serve as justification for real-world extremism. The failure of print and broadcast media to critically engage with these narratives has contributed to an environment where distrust in institutions, glorification of violence, and the justification of militant action thrive. Addressing this issue requires a multifaceted approach. Media creators must acknowledge their influence and strive for more nuanced portrayals of law enforcement, legal institutions, and violence. News outlets must commit to factual reporting that avoids sensationalism and conspiracy reinforcement. Most importantly, the public must be encouraged to engage with diverse perspectives to break out of ideological echo chambers. Without these changes, media will continue to serve as both a mirror and a catalyst for the radicalization of extremist segments in American society.